This present, yeah, go ahead,
I
Matt.
say, have you seen one of the products?
I have not got one of those yet. No, I've pretty much just downloaded everything off.
That's a
online.
Drago, there's a product sample there too, if you want
Up
to.
here.
Yeah.
So this presentation is kind of funky because we can take it in all sorts of different
Oh, cool.
directions. Which is nice for a format like this, because we can just kind of be
Hop
around
around.
about it, but, you want to, I'll just go right to the Drago installation, is that what?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, mainly for us, you know, we're always just running into the issue, especially putting this stuff in, you know, colder months, is getting into adhere to foundation walls. And, you know, that just trying to minimize the chance at least of people, you know, especially once the concrete starts getting poured, you know, it pulling off the wall and around, you know, around penetrations and things like that, so.
Yeah, you probably already know this, but if you can keep the tack tape and, you know, that tape as well,
Yeah.
and room temperature as long as possible, that
Right.
helps regardless of the season, warm or cold.
Right.
It'll just be a lot easier, more pliable. Too hot, it gets pretty gunky, and too cold, it's just pretty hard.
Right,
So.
right. Yeah, we actually we haven't put this in yet. Is it Drago or Drago?
Drago.
Drago, yeah.
Drago.
We actually haven't used this product yet. We've been a lot more the, you know, 20 mil Stego wrap is what we've done a lot more of, but
Gotcha.
a couple new, you know, people asking for
Yeah.
this specific product, so.
For the most part, it would be a similar installation.
Yeah.
I mean, the Drago system, like Matt's saying, has unique accessories because most of the time, it's specifically going to be used when we've got VI concerns,
Right.
and we're talking about airtight as much as we can system,
Yeah.
and they might even smoke test it more likely with Drago than Stego, so, I don't know, let's just walk through this and see.
Yeah.
what's helpful.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
there's some guidelines, we've got, you know, the water vapor standard that's, you know, coming from some of our recommendations.
Yeah.
You know, we've also sort of leaned on CC 1000 a little bit too. You know, one difference between Drago and Stego is with Drago there's a top and a bottom.
Right, okay.
The kind of darker side is going to be up facing the concrete placement, the lighter side is going to be facing the subgrade. You shouldn't mess it up if you do use it because it unrolls and unfolds that way anyway.
Okay.
Cover the placement area, obviously, you know, create monolithic membrane.
Do you need a pen?
I got one right here.
Cool. So there's a pen over there.
Most of that looks like what you'd expect, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Pretty strong, like the 20 mil.
So these are great photos. I haven't even seen this presentation yet.
Well, a lot of these I've added in.
Oh,
so-
nice.
So.
I need to
I
save
can-
this
I
from
can-
you.
Yeah. can
Well, I
show
have
you.
it, it's my flash drive, so it's mine now.
So, yeah, we have you know, generally the Drago seal tape would be used for seams.
Yep.
Some people smoke test it, or not smoke test, sorry, heat weld it.
Yep.
Probably a little overkill, maybe unless you're smoke testing and you
Yep.
want to really make sure there's no gaps at the seams, but this Drago seal tape, you know, we think is a really good seam construction.
One thing on the smoke test, or sorry, no, I'm saying smoke test, on the heat welding,
Yeah.
it has been difficult depending on the subgrade to get the machinery across. There are certain wheels that can put on to
Yeah.
try and make it, but if it's really uneven, the heat welder will not get across, so
Yeah.
it's something to consider. if
We're
you're-
typically just using the tape.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't ever even tried that method at this
Gotcha.
point, but,
Yeah. It's possible, it is something that if you guys do get requested to do it, that there is a little bit of nuance to
Gotcha.
it, and we can help you through it as well.
12-inch overlap, which
Yeah.
might be standard for you, but it's a little bit different than the you know, baseline water vapor, Stego wrap, 6-inch overlap. 12 inches with Drago would recommend. Typical penetration, that's using
Our old,
our old tape.
Gotcha.
Same idea with the seal tape. Or mastic or a Drago sealant. I think I got pictures of all of them. You know, that's fine as long as they're getting anyone's getting good seal at the base of the pipe and the plastic. I think what they've done, or they should have done here, is made sure they brought the insulation on the pipe up so you could seal the pipe itself, but you guys would know that, but like
Right.
concrete guys don't understand that.
Right.
Yeah, tell them that sometimes. Those are okay. The old tape again. Okay. It's okay, a little messy.
Yeah.
But
That's a mastic situation
yeah.
for,
So
for us.
I think that's where I was going with.
Yeah.
And I also point out to people sometimes, here's an example where they actually cut out a piece so that they could detail some of the pipes first. Or, I'll show you some other examples of that. Rather than try to get a big roll up and over a group of pipes like that, they can be a little more precise.
Right.
Cutting a detailed patch, let's call it, first. That's an example we don't want to see.
Yeah.
No. Hold on a second.
Oh, I lost the presentation. It's such a big file that it closes sometimes.
Yeah, and the nice thing about Dragomastic, which I know Tom is going to get to, but we have Dragomastic and then Drago Sealant.
Right.
And Tom, I think that's where we're headed next. But
Yeah, that should be next week, and then I'm sure.
there's just a couple of nuances of each product that make it just easier for the install here. So, yep, I spoke too soon. I can see where he's headed here. There we go.
So that's the sealant, which is a little bit different than what you see with the Stego wrap system. So it's not a great picture, but on the outside you see a little white form.
Right.
So it's like it's creating a dam.
Gotcha.
And then it's a two-part epoxy sealant that you have to mix together on site, and then you pour it in to seal around the pipe. You're getting the wrap. It could be a combination of wrap and maybe some tape, but you want to get, the wrap as close to the pipe as possible, minimize the void space.
Yeah.
And but it's a nice way to get a really good airtight seal as one option. But at the same time, I think we'd be the first to admit, like a lot of times, you don't want any wrap kind of going up the pipe. That tends to, be a little bit of a nuisance to get the sealant to, connect to the pipe.
Gotcha.
If you had a really open subbase,
Yeah.
it can kind of, if you've got the void space pretty big, it can just like drain down in.
Gotcha.
You might have to do a second
Okay.
coat, which isn't great. So we've got Dragomastic, so like Stegomastic. There's a real world picture of the sealant.
Okay.
I don't know why they would use it on that large pipe penetration.
Yeah, that's really the only picture I had.
Yeah.
But here's an example of mastic. I don't know if I have one for a really big group of pipes, but I'm sure you've used it before.
Right.
So those are some options for pipe sealing. The edges can get a little tricky, or at least there's some considerations that can vary project by project, I think.
Yeah, and this is where at least in my few Drago project, Tom, I don't know if you can speak to it, but the perimeter edge detail is the main thing that I think architects, or more so the engineer, takes a little bit of liberty on how they want it sealed.
Right.
So, one project I had them use like 3M spray and then Drago, tack tape, and then some sort of like mastic over top of the seam.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
they
Yeah,
were-
that's where we always fight. Typically we're just drilling the holes in, using some Xmas tree fasteners, and just trying to at least hold it in place.
Yeah.
Then either coming back with a seal tape, or in some scenarios we have just used. And this is more, again, I haven't used this product yet, but with some of the some of the Stego material, caulk, urethane, expanding foam, anything like that. But that's the biggest hiccup we find is getting something to actually stick to the concrete, to stick the material to.
Yeah, with a lot of stuff you just rattled off, it's tough with,
Right.
with plastic, any plastic, but especially Stego wrap and
Yeah.
with the surface energy it has, probably Drago too. So what you're seeing here is Drago tack tape,
Yeah.
double-sided perimeter sealing tape, where it'd be sealed to the wall and then to the plastic. So we know it sticks really well to the plastic.
Right,
We know it sticks really well to concrete and other surfaces, but as long as the temperature's pretty good
yeah,
and the wall's pretty well prepped,
right,
and smooth. And, you know, here, a poured in place foundation wall, yeah, pretty good. You're gonna have pretty good success.
Good luck,
You just
yeah.
brush it off, blow it off. Pressure is key.
yeah,
So one release liner peels off, probably a two-guy job. You have one person releasing and pressing against the wall and someone falling behind. I just use a
roller,
roller
yeah, yeah,
or a spatula. The roller seemed to work the best for really digging it into the wall bit. And then when you're ready, you put up the wrap to it.
Yeah.
Again, try to clean off any dirt that might have gotten on it. And as long as you kind of take a little bit of care for that, it's a really good seal.
yeah,
You know, it is a little time consuming,
right,
but in a Drago installation, it's already, you know, presumably maybe under more of a microscope,
Right.
it's VI, and then regular old water vapor install and,
Yeah.
or radon maybe for that matter, and, as long as you get it that way too, you know, it's gonna
labor hours, yeah,
gonna make sense. So what I'm trying to show here too, and I think I got another picture that shows this, is here what they did is, you know, even though this comes in a 14-foot wide roll, they cut a long, maybe perimeter detail strip that's
Yeah.
3 feet wide. A lot easier to get that up, finagle that up against the wall where you might only be going up 4 inches where the top of the slab's gonna be,
right,
versus 150-pound, 14-foot wide roll and trying to tuck that in the edge. So they've done that, they've sealed the seam, overlapped and sealed the seam there. And yes, it's an extra seam, but I don't know, I found it to be a good,
Yeah.
good route in these types of
Yeah.
installs, especially with the thicker
Yeah.
20 mil. I'll show you another example here. Here's one.
Even with Stego wrap, I sometimes recommend that.
Yeah.
It's a hairier, edge that we're trying to seal too, like Tom was saying, it
cut
makes it
this
a lot
strip
easier.
first.
Yeah.
Well, this stuff feels a heck of a lot more tacky, or, I don't know what you think.
Aggressive,
The
yeah.
adhesion is much more than on even just the Stego, the red Stego
Yeah.
tape, so,
Yeah, that,
I mean, this stuff is crazy
Yeah.
sticky.
Yeah.
same idea here, just another example. And, here they've got, kind of a pretty low stem wall, and they just ran it probably longer than they needed to, but they'll go back and trim off
Right.
the excess. They've got tack tape there. Now, an example, like, that's, tack tape's got a hard time filling the voids of that little spot where it's chipped off a little
Yeah.
bit. But, that's maybe a spot where you go back with a bead of mastic or a
Yeah.
caulk or something to help seal it off in conjunction with the
Yeah.
tape. Here's an example of a footing, which that's where we really see issues with tack tape, in my opinion, because
Mhm.
footings tend to be rougher, dirtier, and unless there's some expectations set with the concrete guys,
Yeah.
they're not thinking about sticking tape to it, so they're just doing a quick little finish.
Yeah.
When we can, we try to tell them, hey, when you're doing your footings, take an extra second and give it a hard trowel finish. It's maybe a little better surface for us to stick to. I also don't like, in this case, I had them change it. This is a point I was making. I got the engineer involved here, but I didn't want them to, if we can, avoid it, not put it right on the edge of the footing.
Right.
Generally, we'd say, okay, structurally, you may not want plastic going all the way to your J bolts there, but can you get them a little closer, just so we're not right on the edge and any little weight pressure is just
Right.
gonna pull it right. And now, you mentioned this a second ago, but I'll show you another example of what we might wanna do there. But anyway, here's another, they're not going all the way to the rebar there, in this case, the structural engineer is probably saying, you can go over a little bit, but not all the way. We want to maximize some concrete to concrete bond, and we would, you know, as a manufacturer, we'd say, hey, structural considerations,
Yeah.
absolutely have to take some precedence here. And here's another example, like, you know, we got a bunch of wall, but then we have this opening, we still want to get a positive seal,
Yeah.
that's a dirty, dirty area, what are we gonna do? And mastic and maybe a termination bar or something.
Does the mastic come into, tubes, like the sausage tubes as well, or is it only the pails?
Well, the Dragomastic is only the tail, Dragomastic comes in the sausage.
Right,
tube.
right.
Here they just gooped it on, I mean, you know, maybe, yeah, that's how it is right now, maybe we'll create a Drago version of the
Yeah.
sausage, but I don't know, in my opinion, if I was doing the install, that's how I'd be doing it.
Yeah.
I just don't wanna mess with tack tape.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, I would agree.
But then what they, and again, you know, I should probably clarify this by saying we would officially recommend a consistent termination, but for what it's worth, you guys just shot 2 ramp set nails through the washer, through the mastic.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a
And
seal behind.
It wasn't going anywhere, you know, and so the idea is, let's just keep it in place up until and through concrete placement. Once we place the concrete, and the weight and pressure of the slab is there,
Yeah, it won't be.
we're still pretty damn good,
Right,
so
yeah.
it's a little, but here's an example of, you know, we're using our termination bar,
Yeah.
going over the mastic,
Huh.
getting a little more consistent seal. Here they're using a pulte gun, they have pins and also nail washers, but.
Sure.
Man, I should have seen all these before. Again, I had another that project where they were using like spray adhesive and all of our tapes, like
Yeah.
on under, on top, and that's actually a much more elegant solution. I probably should have just recommended that, but you know, they got a seal, so that's all we're running.
Right, right.
Here's that seal tape, but
Same.
against the wall here.
Is there a tack tape behind that, or is it just the seal?
I mean, this is, I think this is just one of our models.
A stock, yeah.
But that can be done too. You know, you just gotta balance it with maybe a, I don't know, if there is any sort of aesthetic consideration, like is this gonna be, how thick is the slab, is there gonna be a little bit of tape sticking out? I mean, it wouldn't bother me, but
Right.
maybe it would bother someone, but, you know, one less, you know, one release liner instead of 2.
Well, yeah, if you can save the cost on the tape, you know, and, but if that's the only way it's gonna stick.
Yeah, I mean, this tape is gonna be a little more expensive per foot compared to tack tape, but it's one release liner,
Right.
one stick, and, you know, in some ways, I like it because you can kind of wait until the end of the install, clean it off, and you're not, you know, you can almost kind of do it at the end rather than, I mean, you can do anything at the end, but, you know, you just kind of wrap it up and then go back and seal it.
How's it going?
So, any damaged areas, if there are any, recommend a small patch over that, and take it down with the seal tape probably. Got lots of resources for this. Just give an example, we're doing a smoke test. They wanted to verify the install.
So, Abe,
What other questions do you have on any of that?
What was it? We've never used them before. I know looking through the products, it's like a little stand or something that was being put
Yeah,
in. I don't even know what it is or what the.
let's see if we can get to that.
It's B-screed, so
Yeah, okay.
it's basically a guide screed system for the contractor. So a lot of times we see contractors put a piece of rebar through the paper, do a twist tie at the slab height,
Right.
and they're just pulling the rebar out, but they just now put a bunch of holes throughout the
Yeah.
paper barrier. I have a model. Oh, actually, I have it in my bag. It's your lucky day. This guy?
Yeah.
So there's, how did I write that? There's kerf lines on the post there, so they can set it at the slab height, and then you have 2 inches of adjustability above and below that cap that you can dial in. The foot is buried in the concrete, so it's an adhesive foot there. We also have a foot for, again, it's more vertical application, but for like metal decking, wood decking, if they're doing.
So this is slapped onto the Drago
Or
Stego,
Yep.
and then this is just set at the height of the top of the slab.
Yeah, and it'll come over.
Gotcha.
Yeah, here's a,
Well, it's a forming application, but,
yeah, that's what that little side boss is there by your thumb.
Oh, okay, yeah,
So
yeah.
you can kick it out.
Gotcha.
But,
there you go.
yeah, that's a perfect example.
Okay.
Uh,
But this isn't required for
uh,
installation. I mean, this is more of the concrete contractor saying, or the engineer saying, hey, we want something a little more.
It's a means and methods to
yeah,
not damage the vapor barrier. So, yeah, you probably wouldn't see it necessarily specified.
Sure.
But, yeah, you know, then the question of the concrete guys is probably more applicable for a vapor treatment system. How are you gonna make sure we don't have a whole bunch of holes in this?
Right.
yeah.
If they go, what do you mean? We're just gonna drive our stakes through it. I'm sure someone's gonna say, well, hold on, let's talk about this.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, it's not required to be used with the Drago system, but it's a way to, you know.
Prevent this penetration.
Yeah, you know, they could go and hand rod it and float cow patties,
Yeah.
which is probably what they would do.
Right.
But that's, you know, it's hard to get the best FL numbers that way. They could do a laser screed, which is on one of those photos, there's laser screed, but that was a big industrial slab, most apartments or whatever.
Right.
Probably aren't gonna be laser screeded necessarily, but, yeah, and there's an example of it in action, I guess. There's some benefits for the concrete guys anyway, just, you know, compared to wet screeding, not having to have their foreman with a grade stick, checking and rechecking piles of concrete all day.
Right.
Pretty knows
Kind of
exactly.
set it and, yeah.
Set it and forget it, is,
Right.
I think what we'd say, I mean.
Yeah.
And then the top 2 pieces, the
Post
yellow,
cap.
yeah, those come out, once
Yeah.
they screed over it.
So they're reusable, and they also, it helps the contractor get better FL numbers, so, you know, we're looking at like, 30 plus
Right.
FL numbers, and a normal, screed board crew out there is in, probably high teens,
Yeah.
low 20s generally, so you're getting much, better tolerances
Right.
with the, B screed.
Huh.
Yeah, that's what it looks like in action. Then, I'll just go back to the forming one.
Yeah.
You know, this is where maybe it's even more applicable because, I don't know, like I'm in Colorado and a lot of guys just hand rod
Right.
and they go, we're good with that. And I go, it's fine, as long as you don't, as long as you avoid puncturing big thread, it's fine. But they get into, where they get into tricky parts is hanging interior forms that are elevated from the barrier and they're just driving stakes right through it. And so that's why we've got a system with that side boss and then we have our own form stake. Anyway, it's options to help
Yeah.
deal with that, long time challenge of holding the big barrier.
Right. Cool.
So for someone in your shoes, it's probably one, get our local Stego guy involved in the pre-install meeting.
Yeah.
GC's there, maybe the concrete stuff
I wish I
there.
could think of the guy's name that we've been talking to.
Is it a Lou or Chris?
Chris maybe?
Chris Olson?
Chris Olson, yeah, who we've been talking to recently.
Well, Lou would be his, our regional associate, so
Gotcha.
he might
Okay.
help out occasionally or
Okay.
come out to a job site. Lou lives in Ohio.
Gotcha,
He lives
okay.
in Cleveland.
Okay. Yeah, because I think we were just looking for, I think it was like 27,000 square foot or something, and then talking with Chris about getting him
Yeah.
in for the installation, training, and then,
Yeah.
everything like that. So-
Yeah, Chris will be more or less the point person for like pricing
Yeah.
and things like
Yeah.
that. And Lou would likely be more of like a support role and
Gotcha.
come out to a job site.
Gotcha.
So yeah, they'll definitely help you walk through.
And then, I mean, this versus Stego, besides, I mean, the thickness, I mean, is there, how much of a benefit is it to spend the extra money on this material versus the 20 mil, Stego? I mean, is there that much difference in it? And
Well, I mean, it is engineered differently. More layers and unique layers specifically designed with really good efficacy for permeation, diffusive efficacy for chlorinated solvents, the BTEX chemicals. So for that reason, when it comes to VI, it's typically what we point people to. But at the end of the day, like, you can get Stego wrap sealed well.
Right.
If you're doing active depressurization, it's doing a lot of the heavy lifting,
Right.
the mitigation. That's great, but where Drago becomes sometimes a good fit for project team, from my experience, is you can actually design around it a little bit if you're an environmental consultant. And what we mean by that is with the permeation testing, they can look at what are the chemicals we've got, where are they, what are the concentrations, and we can put it through some of our modeling and be able to show an attenuation factor with that system. And very conservative. It's almost like if we just had source here,
Right.
building here, barrier here, are we safe? Are we under the screening level?
Yeah.
You can do that with Drago, and for a lot of engineers, and they're probably weighing this with what are the chemicals, how sensitive is the owner we're working with, what are the regulatory requirements, what's the budget? Then they might say, I don't know, it's usually something like, listen, we've got an owner or a bank that is anal about this. Sure, we're doing subslot depressurization, but we also want to make sure we've got a barrier that has specific testing for all these chemicals and degradation testing, so we're going to go with Drago. And there's going to be a cost difference, probably 3-4 times the cost, but
I think a lot more people are becoming keen to this product because for the last 5 years, it's always been Stego, and now we're getting a lot more requests for this specific product, so.
Well, and one of the things too, I guess, on pricing, Tom, sorry to interrupt, but I think it's helpful to also understand like the industry that we're kind of now in, because water vapor barrier is totally different than where Drago is.
Right.
So it's a completely different market segment. And, the products that are in the Drago wrap realm are generally dollars a square foot to install. So $2 to $3 on the low end, depending on the installer, and if it needs to be certified, it goes up and up. The other thing is those products are generally spray applied, and then in my conversations with environmental engineers, they like them, but they also are sometimes a little worried that because they're spray applied, one area could be 80 mils thick, one could be 30 mils thick, and there's not a real way to gauge uniformity across the entire job site, whereas Drago, it is a unified thickness across the board. So, although $1 might seem crazy high for water vapor barriers, for a VI system and a water vapor product as well, which a lot of these VI systems too are not great water vapor barriers. So this is again adding that additional water vapor aspect that you may or may not be getting with other competitive products. So it's to Tom's point, it's definitely a step up, but there also needs to be some considerations on exactly what Drago is and the other products in that market segment.
I think you're just going to find it's going to be a consultant-driven or owner-driven or bank-driven, and it's not. Stego wrap still gets used on sites with contamination. With active systems, and we've never heard of a failure or an issue, but so sometimes it's risk tolerance. Sometimes literally it's just we've seen a lot of range stuff with consultants. They might just go. The regulators just say we need a barrier that has testing for X chemical.
Right.
All right, well, we've got that. And then sometimes it's a little more robust. We need to do some modeling. We want to figure out the attenuation factor and actually be able to prove to a regulator or a bank owner that we've got a system that, you know, will be, get this chemical below the screening level. You can do that with Drago, we can't really do it.
Do you see with this sealed, you know, have you seen where it's not even necessary to activate systems and where this barrier sealed well enough is keeping?
Yeah, that's a good question. I figured you were going to ask that. I mean, I think majority of the time we still see active.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, I mean, I've had a couple projects where, I don't know, they've got low levels of chemicals, they're really not too worried about it, but they've got someone, in, you know, in one case it was a bank, the lender that was like, you've got to do something, like, and they went with Drago because they could show, you know, through this modeling, like, no, I mean, we installed it well, like, we've got a good passive barrier to these chemicals, and they didn't want to go through and have to do a whole depressurization system, and that got, you know, approved, and, you know, we were just like, hey, we're here to assist, we can't design it for you. I think the majority of the time, though, it's still going to be some sort of
Mixture.
at least passive.
Passive,
usually,
yeah.
usually active still, because in the VI world, I mean, you guys know better than me, it's going to be pretty common, and most consultants and regulators are going to understand the benefits to having it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the projects I worked on, it was just like, I think they were just thinking, we just don't want to worry about having to maintain an active depressurization system in a warehouse where the maintenance crew has no idea what they're looking at. And it was, yeah, low levels, and they weren't too worried about it, but apparently it was still in the budget to bump up Drago instead of just getting rid of it.
What are you guys seeing on, I mean, and again, I know it's different everywhere, but like an average per square foot installation cost? I mean, what are contractors, I mean, $5 to $7, $12?
Well,
I mean, you gotta range it all there on kind of what the industry,
I mean,
I know you guys are just selling the product, you're not
you
doing
would
it.
probably, here's what I think we could probably tell you. I mean, the Drago system, you're probably buying material costs, we can sort of say $1 a square foot.
Yeah.
We probably, I mean, some of the people we work with, they're probably in the $2 a square foot range.
Okay.
I mean, part of the, where we see this fitting in and benefit to the whole industry is good performance, testing to back it up,
Well,
pretty good system approach that's going to actually, and it's going to save money compared to multi-layered spray and apply systems that could be used for technical. And to do that, we're probably going to be in that $2 to $3 range. Otherwise, I mean, I think those are more like $4 or $5 a square.
Right,
You know.
right. Yeah, for the spray applied, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't, you know, we're always curious, what are installers charging on their side of things, because we see a big range. What do you do for a Stego wrap install? What do you?
Yeah, I mean, for us, I think we're anywhere from, it all depends too on what we get it, you know, how many square foot, but I feel like we're anywhere from 85 cents up to like $1.25. You know, somewhere in that range per square foot. So I know the cost of this gets up there a little higher.
It's gonna be a little more labor, but it's not gonna be, I mean, when you said,
Penetration.
when you said $5 to $12 a square foot, that sounded,
Do you have any questions, or, sorry?
I know, I just, sorry, I was late, I was in a different section, so.
You're good. We'll be here tomorrow morning too. If you had any questions or wanted to dial it in,
All right.
more happy.
Yeah, I'm meeting somewhere else I hang out, so I apologize.
No problem. See you tomorrow.
yeah.
See, that's where I was hearing more of like the fluid apply, you could get to that 5 to 7 range.
Yeah.
And then this, you know, yeah, hey, you're 225 somewhere around there.
Yeah,
you
I mean,
know.
I've heard that before. It varies. That's
Yeah.
Installation is gonna be similar enough to a typical vapor barrier install that we think it should be in that range. And frankly, I mean, honestly, that's what we're talking to consultants about, is we're in this 250 square foot range installed. If we've got, I mean, you know, make as much as you
Yeah, right,
but
right.
you also have to remember that, and I think we were talking about this earlier, like, we would love more specialized installers in the radon or environmental or other niches of the industry did more basic barrier installations in general.
Versus just the concrete guys.
Just the concrete guy.
Slapping it down. Do you see concrete guys buying this type of stuff? I mean, do they,
Yeah,
if it's in the specs, you know, they're getting it?
I had one concrete contractor who was amazing. I mean, he could have been a specialty contractor after the job.
Right.
Did a fantastic
Yeah.
job. I've been on their job where it was absolute hell.
Right.
And
Right.
it really depends on the crew, but yeah, the concrete guys, they are installing it. And, it is a real hit or miss. Luckily, this one contractor, I mean, I even called him up, I was like, I've never seen this before, but I was like, even out like a Stego install, it's the best install I've ever seen in my entire time working at the company.
Right. I feel like that's what we run into a lot is they want us for the conveyance piping, the sub slab work, but then they just want the concrete guy to do the rack because they're doing the concrete, you know, and then we show up and it's not sealed around penetrations, and then, you know, they wonder why we're not getting levels down all the way, and it's, you know, we can't guarantee the system, you
There's a
know?
disconnect
Yeah,
between, well, I don't know who's between, really. I mean, the basic barrier generally gets lumped in with this, it's a concrete package commodity.
yep,
And we're trying to go out there and explain to people, it's not. It's an important part of the building envelope. Yes, it goes under the concrete, but I mean, and I don't know how to necessarily fix the problem, but you know, it could just be, we were talking about, we should try to get design professionals to not put it in their concrete spec,
Yeah.
Vision 3, so then it just like automatically gets lumped in.
right.
I mean, especially when you start talking about part of the mitigation system. Let's specify it in Vision 7, so that you're more likely to have it go to a
Yeah.
specialized installer, and maybe they should probably be calling it the soil gas barrier,
Right.
and make sure it's not thought of as just the plastic
Vapor
concrete.
barrier, plastic, right.
And I think there is, maybe that disconnect is, you've got the architect, structural engineer, just throwing it in their spec like we normally would.
Right.
And then you've got a consultant, environmental consultant, design and mitigation system. And the GC is looking more at the spec book, and out of habit, they put it in the concrete guy's scope of work. And I mean, this applies for any of our barriers, but especially when you get into these systems. And then we go out, and they want us to review it. And like Matt's saying, we go, God,
Right.
why did we?
Why are we, you know, asked out here, and, I mean, that's the other thing, like, you know, with any of this stuff, like, Drago specifically, hopefully one of our guys is working with you, so if you ever get a project, please contact us, even if you feel confident, just, sometimes we might even have a new product that is not in our literature, because with the pandemic, we've been updating the literature, but the stuff that we have in our houses is probably not the most up to date.
Right.
But that has really helped. I mean, but you know, Tom's point, you'll have a pre-con meeting with these guys.
Because I think Chris was telling us something about if he were to come or somebody were to come train us, the chance of being an installer for Stego or for Drago, you know, and hopefully getting further, recommendations, you know, from supplier, you know, so we're definitely, definitely interested in that, and getting with him, like my owner's been talking with him and trying to get him or the other gentleman from Ohio at